Hi everybody, Nike is failing.
Nike is no longer dominating the running market.
The 60-year-old company is stumbling.
This is the first real time that you're seeing Nike really struggle with competition.
Do you have Nikes or you don't?
50% of people are wearing Hoka now.
This is a story of misfires being masked by a pandemic sales boom.
For the fiscal fourth quarter, it looks like a miss pretty much across the board.
Really worried that the company just doesn't have the next leg of growth.
In the past 1 year, while Adidas stock price has appreciated by 19%, Nike stock price has gone down by 21%. While in the first quarter of 2023, Adidas had an unsold inventory of $6 billion, in the same quarter, Nike had an unsold inventory of $8.9 billion, and it even touched $9.3 and $9.7 billion. So Nike's sales are dropping, dead inventory is very high, and the stock price is going down. Which is why this year, Nike seems to be a stock market disaster in the United States of America. And all of this started because Nike made one big mistake. And this mistake is called direct-to-consumer strategy, or D2C.
The direct-to-consumer retail space is making some pretty big market moves.
Donahoe pointed to the results as proof his strategy was working and started cutting those ties with retailers.
And Nike is just lagging behind.
Nike's market value nosedived over the past few years.
An era that was about to come to an end.
Now this D2C approach is the reason why this case study is super important, because while America got hit by the D2C wave in 2010, now in India, everybody wants to start a D2C brand. So if you're a D2C investor or a founder, watch this episode very carefully, because you can get all the hard lessons that Nike learned by burning $1 billion, and that too in less than 20 minutes. So in this episode today, let's dig deep and try to understand what exactly is this D2C model, why did Nike switch to this D2C model, what are the most fundamental flaws in this model because of which Nike is now going back to the wholesale model, and most importantly, as investors and entrepreneurs, what are the lessons that we need to learn from Nike's $1 billion mistake. Before we move on, I want to quickly thank our education partners of today's episode, and that is 1% Club. People, we are often too busy or lazy to look after small financial decisions, and then these little problems add up to our stress. Whether it is poor money management or not knowing enough about finance or simply not caring enough about it, it is very easy for you to fall into a financial trap because of these little financial mistakes. But that's where 1% Club is here to help you out. 1% Club has been founded by my dear friend Sharan Hegde. They are India's largest finance community with 50,000 plus members. And it is all about helping people understand money better to reach their financial goals. They are offering 25 plus easy to use tools and lessons that will teach you how to pick the right credit card, how to choose the best insurance, how to invest in the right stocks, how to invest in the right mutual funds, and much more. And for this, 1% Club is hosting an exclusive masterclass to help you learn the basics of managing and growing your money. And the best part is, for a limited time, thinkschool learners will get a special 50% discount on the Retire Early Masterclass. So don't miss out on this opportunity to improve your finances, and register now using the link in the description. This is a story that dates back to 2011, when Nike realized that they were the godfather of the American shoe market. And it's quite understandable because Nike was a legend in the market. Jordans were flying off the shelves, their stock price had shot up by more than 300% in the past 10 years, and they recorded a revenue of $20 billion.
People rushed to get the newest pair of Air Jordans. A crowd busted through this door in Indiana. And remember, as you're watching these pictures, this is all over shoes.
How many pairs of Air Jordans do you have?
I have about 9 pair of Air Jordans. Since I was a kid, I've been, working hard just to come up here early in the morning just to wait in line to get these shoes.
And by that time, Nike had such a strong brand image that every star player was wearing a Nike, whether that was Roger Federer or Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods or Cristiano Ronaldo. Everybody was wearing a Nike.
Once I went through the presentation with Nike, they really made a grave effort of trying to have my input on the shoes.
When I first signed up with Nike, lines and apparel that people love, it's just been amazing for me to be part of.
At 35 years old, he's still lighting up the Serie A for Juventus, coming in this season as runner-up for the Golden Boot with 31 total goals.
So since Nike had an incredible brand pull, Nike decided to make a tectonic shift. And this tectonic shift was to go from a wholesale model to a direct-to-consumer model. And this is what shook the entire sports market of America. For those who don't know, wholesale model is a model whereby Nike sells its shoes to a wholesaler like Foot Locker or Macy's, who then use their distribution to sell these shoes at their own price in their own stores all across America. Or the wholesalers might sell it to other retailers who further go on to sell it to their customers. Whereas in a direct-to-consumer model, Nike can directly sell all of its products directly to the customer either through its own website or through its own retail store. So in this model, the wholesaler is completely eliminated. Now the question is, if Nike was able to sell its shoes to wholesalers without the worry of website traffic or store maintenance, why did they suddenly shift to the direct-to-consumer model? Well, that is because, ladies and gentlemen, a direct-to-consumer approach gives you 4 major superpowers. The first superpower is a superpower of profit margins. In simple words, if Nike makes a shoe for $80 and sells it to Macy's at $100, Macy's would then sell the same shoe at $120. So even though the product cost is $120, the profit of Nike is only $20. But theoretically, if Nike sold this product directly to the customer, they could sell the same shoe at $110 and still make a profit of $30. So do you see, even with decrease in cost, Nike can still generate more profits. The second superpower is brand control and pricing. So during a holiday season, a retailer like Macy's might heavily discount Nike shoes just to attract customers. And this creates a perception that Nike is a low value brand. But with Nike's own stores or website, Nike could maintain a consistent pricing which can maintain the premiumness of the brand. The third superpower is customer relationship and data. So if a customer buys a Nike shoe from Foot Locker, Nike might receive basic sales data like which product was sold and which state did the sale happen in. But in a D2C scenario, if the same customer buys from Nike.com, Nike can collect all the micro details like customer preference, age, gender, location, interest, and even profession and testimonial. So this allows Nike to run the most accurate ads which are personalized to every single person who buys from Nike. And more importantly, when it is able to collect direct feedback from the customer, it is also able to improve its product line. And lastly, while a wholesaler might have a salesman who doesn't know about the product or a shelf that could be completely disorganized, if Nike owns a store, it can control everything from quality of sales staff to the lighting to even the music in that store. And this results in a better customer experience. So do you realize this way, the D2C strategy could literally offer everything that a brand wants. Better price, better margins, better experience, better customer data, and most importantly, better control over both the product and the brand. This is the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, in a revolutionary approach, Nike announced something called Consumer Direct Offense Strategy. Under this strategy, Nike cut off 1/3 of their wholesale partners, including Macy's, Urban Outfitters, and even Zappos. And eventually, they reduced their supply to the remaining stores. On top of that, it also ended its high-profile partnership with Amazon. Yes, Nike ended their relationship with Amazon. And here's where the D2C strategy of Nike started.
The real story is direct-to-consumer, DTC.
A business model that had exploded in the 2010s.
It is the golden model of the new age.
They want to sell direct to consumer and not do the retail stores as much.
But they're doing something that really no behemoth has ever done before.
Instead of selling through wholesalers, they established a 3-pillar framework. The first pillar was digital product portfolio. And this portfolio had 4 apps: Nike Training Club for gym and yoga enthusiasts, Nike Run Club for runners, Sneakers for sneaker enthusiasts, and they had the main Nike app which sold all their products. This layer collects all the data from the customer, from location to preference to purchase data to search data to age and even gender. Now, using this data layer, Nike understood the hotspots of their customer base all across America. So now they knew where to set up their stores and what kind of products they need to keep in those stores in order to maximize sales. And here's where they built their second pillar, which was their retail store portfolio. And this portfolio again had 4 types of stores. Firstly, they had the Nike Rise store, which are focused on customized shopping experience with localized products and events. Then they have Nike House of Innovation stores, which are specially made to launch cutting-edge Nike products. Thirdly, they have Nike Live, which are small stores which were designed for quick pickup and returns. And then they have Nike Style, which is specifically aimed at Gen Z consumers with a mix of streetwear and sports inspired fashion. Then Nike had the third layer, which was the interconnection between physical and digital layer. So let's try to understand this better. You see, when a customer uses these Nike digital products, Nike is able to understand where is the maximum density of Nike customers. And then Nike is able to set up its stores. And here's where this third layer makes people use both the digital products as well as the retail stores. And eventually it results into a virtuous cycle. For example, in the app, when the customer feeds all the data, the retail stores use customer data of that location to decide which products will be kept in which store. And then the customer data is feeded into the app. So when the customer walks in, Nike will use that data from the customer's profile to give customized recommendation to that customer based on the store products. And then for the products that are already there in the store, Nike has these QR codes which the customers can scan. So if you look at an Air Force One in a store, the QR code will tell you everything from what sizes are available, which other products will go well with that particular shoe, what is the review that the customers have given, and it will even give you similar recommendations based on that particular store's inventory. So your buying experience is enhanced by a large extent. And lastly, if you have the Nike app, you don't need to wait in the queue at all. You can simply check out from the Nike app itself. And this again feeds data into the Nike database. So if you see, this third layer helps Nike build an ecosystem where the customers use both the app as well as the store to feed rich data into the Nike database.
At Nike's new flagship on Fifth Avenue, the House of Innovation, you can shop 68,000 square feet of cutting-edge retail space without talking to a human.
You take a picture of that QR code, and this entire look is loaded onto your phone.
We are going to be allowing our consumers in the mobile app to buy product in their app and walk out without needing to talk to us.
And this gives Nike three incredible superpowers. Number one is better inventory management and optimized product placement. For example, with the intelligence of evolving customer data, Nike will know which products will sell better and which products need to be produced more. For example, suddenly if there is a trend of white sneakers in Brooklyn and a trend of Jordans in Manhattan, Nike will quickly send more Jordans to Manhattan and more white sneakers to Brooklyn. The second superpower is customer segmentation insight for better marketing. For example, if Nike understands that Brooklyn has gym and tennis enthusiasts and Manhattan has more yoga practitioners, Nike would sponsor tennis tournaments in Brooklyn and they would place their products in the best gyms in Brooklyn. Similarly, they would organize more yoga workshops in Manhattan and they would try out more yoga products in Manhattan. And lastly, when Nike organizes these special events or sponsors tournaments that are close to the hearts of the people, it builds a sense of community and eventually it would help them command loyalty from their customers. So as time passes, the database was expected to get richer and richer with better and better insights. Eventually, it was expected that this entire D2C ecosystem will help Nike pinpoint opportunities all across America and it will help Nike make better decisions, eventually keeping it way ahead of its competition. This was the revolutionary framework that Nike designed to go all in with its D2C strategy. So do you realize Nike literally had everything to achieve success in its D2C model? They had a solid brand value, insane amount of data, millions of customers using the app to collect data, and $1 billion to make all of this happen all across America. So the question is, did they succeed? Well, initially, yes, their D2C sales rose from 16% of the total revenue in 2011 to 35% in 2020. In fact, even during COVID, Nike sales started rising drastically. Now, just to give you an idea about how big a deal this was, while Adidas's entire revenue in 2022 was $24 billion, just with the D2C channel, in the same year, Nike generated $18.7 billion. This is how insanely well the D2C channel was doing for Nike. So everything was great, right? Well, you know what, guys? Something changed after COVID, and this is what led to disastrous consequences for Nike. Now, whether this is short term or long term, we don't know. But as of now, Nike is facing a hard time. So the question over here is, what exactly went wrong? Well, if you look at this graph, Nike's sales growth from apps and websites started dropping drastically. Now, even while D2C scales are rising, overall, they are left with billions of dollars in inventory, the revenue is dipping, and lastly, after all this leap, Nike is now making a U-turn to go back to the wholesale model.
as the world reopened, turned out people still quite liked buying shoes in stores, but Nike just wasn't in as many of them now.
It was kind of like done, and the hype was done.
So now the question over here is, when the D2C strategy was so well plotted out, when it was so well designed, when Nike had all the money in the world, all the data in the world, what exactly went wrong? Well, here's where, ladies and gentlemen, the dark side of the direct-to-consumer channel comes in. And here's where you need to pay very, very close attention, because these are the same problems that D2C brands are facing in India. So if Nike faced this problem, so will you. So listen to this carefully. The first factor was the impact of recession. In simple words, whenever there is a recession, a consumer would want to compare multiple shoe options and choose the most economical option rather than just blindly preferring a Nike over others. For example, during a recession, a consumer would look for discounted shoes at Foot Locker rather than paying the full price at Nike.com. And this is exactly what happened in case of Nike, whereby Nike's D2C sales in the last quarter of FY24 fell by 8% to $5.1 billion, whereas the wholesale sales of brands like Foot Locker and DSW, they remained super stable. Which means people were buying shoes, it's just that they were buying from wholesalers and not directly from Nike itself. The second challenge was the challenge of inventory and supply chain shocks. For example, in case of a wholesale model, Nike simply has to sell its products to the wholesaler, and the wholesalers would take care of everything from inventory to shipment to stock clearance to even reverse shipping. So once Nike sells the products to the wholesalers, Nike doesn't have to worry. But in case of the direct-to-consumer channel, Nike has to take care of everything from inventory to shipment to clearance to even the reverse supply chain. At the same time, when you deal with wholesalers, wholesalers share the burden of inventory management. So they place bulk orders in advance, which helps Nike forecast the demand and reduce the risk of overstock. Similarly, if Nike overproduces a particular shoe, then they can rely on wholesale partners to help them move those products through their extensive distribution networks and promotional efforts. So if you look at what happened after Nike went D2C, you will see that they started to pile up more and more inventory. In fact, in 2022, they had $8.42 billion of inventory, which further went up to touch $9.7 and $9.3 billion in a quarter. And this meant in a quarter, Nike had to bear the cost of storing billions of dollars worth of stock, which directly impacted their profitability. The third factor that backfired was the operational cost. For example, Nike invested very heavily into building a flagship store in a prime location, which incurred high rent and high operational expenses. And while this did enhance the brand image of Nike, it also added to the fixed cost of Nike. So when the market was bullish and everybody had money, Nike was having a great time. But as soon as recession hit and sales started to go down, these stores became a cash burning machine. But when it comes to the wholesale model, Nike did not have to worry about store rent or maintenance. In fact, they did not even have to worry about logistics. For example, instead of opening a new Nike store in a smaller city, Nike could partner with a local sports retailer who already had an established customer base and operational capabilities. So for Nike, it was no headache of a store, no rent, no staff, and no need to set up logistics. So all they had to do was build a great product, sell it to the wholesaler, and let them decide where and how they want to move the stock. So in exchange for the profit margins that Nike paid to the wholesaler, they got risk mitigation and less headache of logistics in return. And lastly, in a D2C model, there is a reach problem. In simple words, if Nike has to set up and maintain a store, for that store to be viable, Nike might have to sell at least 500 shoes a month. So Nike can set up its retail store only in those areas where they can sell 500 shoes a month. But when it comes to a retailer, Nike could just sell 100 shoes to that retailer and reach those areas where there are lesser Nike customers. And since the retailer is selling products of multiple other brands, for him, 100 Nike shoes sold a month is good enough to make a profit. So long story short, while Nike has a genius strategy to go D2C, the lesson that Nike learned is that while D2C channel gives higher margins, better data and better customer experience, it comes at a very heavy cost of inventory load, lesser reach, less tolerance to recession and less risk mitigation. This is the reason why Nike is now trying to get back to its retailers and wholesalers. But now there is one big problem.
So Nike tried to bolster and build their own shops, but it looks like they do need partners, and they brought back Tom Petty.
And with one goal: rebuild relationships with retailers.
A brand that is struggling, trying to rebuild retail partners.
The moment Nike went off the shelves of wholesalers, Two other brands took off in the American market, and they took off as a result of this lacuna that Nike had created. These two brands are On and Hoka. So now Nike is struggling to get back those slots that the wholesalers had given away to On and Hoka. This is the story of Nike's D2C channel. Now, does this mean that Nike has completely failed with its D2C approach? Not at all. Nike is a very big brand, and like I said before, they have $1 billion, they have a strong brand value, and they have a very strong digital ecosystem using which they are collecting a ton of data. So even now, they could very easily turn this around and turn their D2C channel into a successful channel. It's just that as of now, they are struggling, and from their struggles, we could understand the most important challenges that Nike may not face 5 years later, but entrepreneurs like you and me will face when we build our D2C brand. And this is what brings us to the last part of the episode, and that are the lessons that we need to learn from this $1 billion mistake of Nike. Lesson number 1, D2C is not as ideal as everybody thought, and middlemen are not always bad. While most people look at payment to wholesalers as a loss of profit, it is actually a payment to be made in exchange for risk mitigation and reach. So the wholesalers are not charging you money just because they can. They're actually adding value to the supply chain, and they're not going away anytime soon. Lesson number 2, loyalty for a brand is often overrated. And while most brands like to believe that their customers are extremely loyal, more often than not, customers are not so loyal, whether that's Nike, Apple, or Starbucks. And here's where Apple understood this very, very clearly, and they have done an extraordinary job with their Apple ecosystem. And today, Apple has built such a strong ecosystem that with each passing product, the exit from that ecosystem gets more and more difficult. So while Nike tried to build loyalty with perception, Apple has built loyalty by design. So it's literal pain that you will feel to exit the ecosystem. At the same time, you will get rewarded if you keep adding products to the ecosystem. So do you realize Apple did it with design and Nike tried to do it with perception? And lastly, if you're a D2C founder or an investor in D2C, we are releasing 2 amazing podcast episodes with the legendary founders of Viva Sauce and Bolt. And both these entrepreneurs have built a 1,000 crore company by cracking distribution and product. So do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And if you're watching this episode in October, check out these episodes in our podcast playlist, the link of which I will attach in the description. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to check out the Retire Early Masterclass by 1% Club from the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.